just maybe just give us a quick brief job description of what your mission is on this World Cup campaign?
So my role is as the performance coach, with my primary responsibility around the playing group and then the players as individuals. But I also support any member of staff or management that needs support along the way. So anything around maximising their performance from a mental perspective, planning their daily diaries, their schedules, building strategies around their mental game, etc. All those aspects. So we'd meet players one-to-one on a daily basis, and we'd prepare content for them as a group, so that we have that collective connection to what we're doing, and then we go back to the individual support work.
How much of it revolves around rugby specifically, or are there other aspects that are very welcome in the forum?
I think it's very rugby specific because that's the context. So trying to understand the context and navigate it really well so that you're bringing your content is relevant to where we're at any particular stage in the tournament or campaign, etc. So it's very rugby driven. It has to land well with this group. It has to make a difference, and it has to have meaning for them if they're going to be able to apply it in the context of their performance on the field or in the context of how they prepare for a game.
It's a relatively new field in a professional environment as well, and it'll only be natural if you've 33 players, maybe not 33 players are into that and they have their own methods of that. How much buy-in is it, and is everyone involved, or is there a couple of players who said this is just not for me?
This is a professional group. They're very professional individuals, but they're also a very curious group. So there's no compulsory you have to attend the meeting. The options are left for the player to decide. Some players will be very regular. Some players will have 4 check-ins over a campaign because they're managing very well, and they're very well organised in terms of their day-to-day and their weekly plan. But at a group level, we get to touch everybody. So I think that's why it works for us. We have that collective piece that's aligned to obviously what the coaches are trying to get across, and then that pulls a few players in, and then we have our one-to-one piece. But I'd say we have the guts of 70% of our players who are fully engaged and tapping in. Those who aren't have their own processes in place.
Gary, since you've come in and obviously toured New Zealand, November, winning the Grand Slam match and winning the World, have you noticed a change in the kind of confidence and self-belief of the players coming into this tournament now?
Yeah, like a lot of it is led by Andy's leadership. You know, I think the person at the forefront of the group, it's important that he has a very clear sense of what he's trying to achieve, and he has a very clear sense of where he wants to take the team. And it doesn't happen overnight. It's taken 3+ years to kind of build the environment and build the belief within the group in terms of what we're collectively trying to achieve. And he's been consistent and constant in his approach to that. And I think we all take our lead off how he's leading and managing the environment.
Because this Ireland team are trying to do something no Irish team has done before and get beyond the quarter-final, I don't know, has it been a mental thing even in the past, but like, what do you need to do to get, break that barrier, to help Ireland break that barrier, whether it's psychological or whatever, to go further than they've ever gone before in the World Cup?
It takes a leader who wants to do that. So it takes a leader who has the confidence in himself to want to break the mold and to want to reach for the stars. Because if he's not convinced that it can be achieved, it's very hard to convince everybody else that it can be achieved.
And is he convinced?
Yes, he's 100% convinced. That doesn't mean there's any guarantees in terms of where you end up. It's about how, and it's about what we do, and it's about how we respond to difficulties as we face them. You know, we're not expecting the path to be clear or easy. It's not meant to be, because it wouldn't be worthwhile if it was. My career has been involved in breaking molds. You know, that's an exciting thing to be part of, and I think we have that within this group for sure.
Is
the kind of intensity in the long haul of the World Cup a unique challenge? Is it something you've come across before?
Well, we certainly get that from the Olympic space. We not only have a long campaign into the Olympic Games, we have 4 years in which we're preparing and trying to bring athletes through to get them to that level. But the World Cup, in the context of rugby, is a longer campaign than any other campaign that they have. So I think the earlier you start to think about it and focus on it, the better prepared you are when you come to the tournament itself. So this team have been preparing for this World Cup for quite some time. So we have a very clear sense of what's ahead of us and how to manage it. I think you got to stay in the day that you're in, not try and swallow the whole kind of tournament in one go. We take it step by step. It's kind of a next game focus, next training focus, that type of stuff. So I think that's how we've handled it.
I know you work primarily with players, but Andy, as a former professional athlete yourself, does he use you for some thought?
No, I think we bounce off each other and the coaching team. You're there to give a little bit of feedback every now and then when you're asked. But it's important that I'm aligned to what he's trying to achieve, and he's very clear on what he's looking for, which makes my job much easier because I can create on the basis of that. So I think that relationship is very important in terms of my role. But also the relationship with the rest of the coaching team is important also.
Thanks, James.
Gary, Ireland had so much success over the last couple of years. What development have you seen in this group in the time you've been working with?
I think the group has always had that potential. There's a lot of talent in this group. I think one of the big changes is the empowerment that Andy provides for those players and the level of ownership and leadership that they're providing for their peers has been a big difference. And I think there's a very significant buy-in to what we're trying to achieve and a belief in how we're trying to achieve it. So I think that's been a big difference.
Just finally for me, there has been a lot of focus on Ireland's record at tournaments like this. Is that something that you challenge the players head on with, or is it something you try and park and talk about this being a new era rather than focusing too much on what's happened before?
We don't really. We're not bothered by it. I think this group wear that skin very well. It's not normally in the Irish mentality, but if you're there, you've earned the right. But there's a recognition across this entire group, including staff, that we have to continue to earn the right. Nothing is going to be given to us. And every new performance has to be generated and created. We can't live off a past performance. So I think that's the attitude, this curiosity about how we can improve as a group is there across all roles within the group, not just the playing group, the coaching group, but our whole performance support group and our operations group is the same. How can we improve? How can we innovate as a group? So keep grounded and stay curious.
Yeah. How can the group stay grounded if they're constantly known as the world #1 team?
Because the Irish never get ahead of themselves. We don't. As a nation, we don't. We are grounded. We're hardworking. And I think that's served us really well. And you've got to respect what's in front of you, because if you don't, it's going to teach you a lesson. And we drive that message into this group. We've got to respect what we face next. And we also got to accept the conditions that a tournament like this will throw at us. And I think that's why the group has become quite adaptive over the last number of years.